St. Francis Xavier Cabrini was born in Italy, and she was educated to be a teacher. And when she attempted to join that religious order that educated her, they refused to accept her. And so she went to work at Providence Orphanage in New York, in Cadano, Italy. And after she was there for a while, the sisters decided, I think, to build a larger orphanage, and it was rejected by the bishop. And Mother Cabrini was appointed then to be prioress of the Sisters of the Sacred Heart. And 7 of the girls who were orphans in the orphanage where she worked joined her. She wanted to go to China to do missionary work, but Pope Leo XIII advised her not to do that, but to go to America, to New York, where there were thousands of Italian immigrants who needed help. And so she and her sisters sailed for New York City. When they got here, she wanted to open up an orphanage, first of all. And the Archbishop, the house that she thought she was going to get to use for her and her sisters and an orphanage was not available. And the bishop told her that she should go back to Italy. Well, she was determined, very determined woman. And she persisted, and she went and built it anyway. It turned out that she established 67 institutions during her life as a religious woman. She was very concerned with the faith was failing among the immigrants, and she was so concerned, and so she established schools for adults to come and be re-educated in their faith. She started hospitals, orphanages, institutions for learning, schools, educating children, the abandoned, the sick, all those who were coming as immigrants from Italy. And just incredibly valiant woman who was persistent. Her health was always a challenge for her, and yet she just continued to drive her strength and her trust in God. She just absolutely trusted God. There's a statue of her in the cathedral, St. John's Cathedral in Cleveland. As you're facing the main altar, up in the front to the right, there's an altar dedicated to the Blessed Mother and the Sacred Heart. And then on the wall, there's a beautiful wood-carved statue of Mother Cabrini. I think it was Bishop Hoban, who was in Chicago when she was there, and he was one of the bishops that told her to just go back and refuse to allow her to do something. And of course, she went ahead and did it anyway. And then when she was canonized a saint, to kind of make up for her, he had the statue carved and put it in St. John's Cathedral, where he was now bishop. I wonder how that would feel, if I turned somebody down from doing something good and they ended up becoming a canonized saint. We never know how God's going to work. We never know. She had a real fear of water. She had a fear of drowning in water. And yet she still faced that, traveling by ship 30 times back and forth from Italy to the United States, because she was going back to raise money and she was going back to recruit more women to join her religious order. Just an incredibly valiant woman. She died in, I think, 1877. She died from malaria in a hospital, one of her own hospitals in Chicago. But truly a valiant woman who just continued to do God's work. She was just insistent on doing the work of Christ, was to reach out to those who were in need and to serve them with her life. So she's a great saint. We have St. Francis Xavier Cabrini Church in Lorraine. While I was there, and I was administrator there for a while, they started Mother Cabrini's Cupboard, which was a pantry for feeding the poor in Lorraine. So it's a great saint for us to imitate to trust in God, to go ahead, and with his grace, all things are possible. And I've certainly found that true in my own life and ministry, and I'm sure you have too in your own lives and vocations. So today we thank God for her witness. Let us stand and offer our prayers and petitions.